this is today's dilemma. It's 4:45 at the bottom of a mountain that we need to get over. It's only a mile away. Good morning. It is 7 o'clock. Finally was able to get breakfast going and get out of my tent and pack up. A thunderstorm rolls through right at about 4:30. There was a lot of heat lighting starting at 4 with a little bit of rain. So I've kind of been up since 4 o'clock today. The thunderstorm was a pretty good one. The wind came whipping through. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I was safe in my tent, though I did get a little bit of water in. I'm not sure how some of the places it got in, but it did start blowing right through my tent door screen at one point. I wasn't able to tighten the doors down solidly enough based on the way I had set it up the night before, and that was an error on my part. So my sleeping bag got a little bit wet. No big deal. It's going to be beautiful and sunny by this afternoon, and I have no doubt I'll be able to dry it out. So, yep, just got to get over Max Patch. There are thunderstorms, potential thunderstorms in the forecast until noontime today. So I just want to get over this guy and back down into the trees before another storm passes. Right now everything looks clear. It's only 0.8 to the summit from here. So I'll see you on the other side. I'm gonna guess this is Buzz and Freebird. They told me they had duplexes. So I made it over Match Patch safely. No thunderstorms rolling through at the time. I didn't get a sunrise, but it was okay. It was still pretty nice up there. Now that I'm on the other side of the patch, last night when I got to the road on the south side of the mountain, I walked 0.3 beyond the road and the water source filled up with water, looking for a campsite, and there was only one campsite for a single tent, and it was extremely sloped. And I just knew I wasn't going to get comfortable. So anything beyond the road, which was just after the campsite, is closed to camping until the other side of the mountain. There's a 2-year restoration in effect, and it actually gets lifted at the end of the month, I believe, this month. Anyways, I couldn't find camping, so I had to make the decision to carry water over the mountain or go back 0.3 miles. And since I was unsure how far I had to go for camping, and I'm trying to take it easy, I decided to backtrack the 3.3 miles and camp on the road with probably 6 or 7 other hikers. It's a dirt road, unused, but it was right next to a gravel road. And the only reason that was an option, as I've mentioned before, was because I'd be camping with a group of people. Normally, I don't like to camp by a road. Anyhow, now that I'm on the other side of the mountain, I showed you Buzz and Freebird's tents. Perfect, beautiful location just outside of the closure on this side of the mountain. And then a little ways down was a water source and another place that you could have made camp right next to the water source. And I'm looking now and I actually even see more. So it's always a tough decision when you don't know what's ahead, and it's getting to the end of the day and your miles are starting to pile up. I do not like backtracking at all, and normally I will just push forward, do everything I can at all costs not to backtrack, but that was my decision last night, and it's all good. I didn't want to have to dump out the water that I already filtered or lug it over the mountain. It was the end of the day, and I'm just trying to be a little more conservative in my miles right now, until I feel that my body is adapting a little bit better. This is another place where camping would have been good. Not really sure what the fence is all about. Probably just to keep horses out. Looks like there's a little bit of a water source right down there. But right here would have been a good camp spot. Can't say that it would have been any windier than where we were. We were in a bit of an open area this morning when the winds came howling through. But this is a nice little area. I think I'm just gonna have to trust that there's a lot of stealth camping, and like Freebird told me, the authorities, whoever that might be, made Far Out take out a lot of the camping spots on the app. I guess they prefer for everyone to camp in the shelters, but it's not illegal if you don't. Another big camping area over here. I'm actually standing in a privy right now. This one does not offer a lot of privacy. Here's proof I'm in the privy. Very important that the door locks on this privy. This is a new one. Not much bum hiding in this privy. Been seeing pretty big chunks of blue sky, so I haven't been worrying about any more thunderstorms yet, even though they are in the forecast until noontime today. And I just looked up. That's not blue. It looks blue, but it's really gray. Gotta keep an eye on this. Nice day is starting to build. Still some testy clouds out, but for the most part, it looks like the blue sky is gonna start winning over. Walking in sunshine now. Sky is still a little turbulent, but I really think it's gonna be all blue pretty soon. Day is upon us now. All blue sky. Still a little bit of clouds behind me, but that's going in the direction that I came. Only thing that's still kicking around is the wind. I apologize for not getting the name of this person, but someone asked a couple really good questions for any future AT hikers. These could be questions that you would really like to have answers to. First question had to do with bear canister requirements. They had heard that there were certain areas along the trail where bear canisters were required, and this person wanted to know what I did in those instances. So the bear canister requirements are that you can't camp in certain areas without a bear canister. It does not mean that you have to be carrying your food in one as you're hiking. And in order to get around that, most of these bear canister requirement areas are very small in miles, like maybe 5 miles. So all you have to do is just make sure that you don't end your day within the radius of that closure. Just plan accordingly, make sure you leave early enough or do whatever you have to do to get through that bear canister requirement area, or you can camp. Usually there's places right before they start. The second question had to do with my resupply boxes. Now I'm going to say right up front that it is not the norm to do resupply boxes on the trail. Most hikers will just resupply in towns, and they're very happy with that. There are lots of resupply options, and they're frequent along the trail. The reason why I do resupply boxes is because I like to be able to have the selection of foods that I know I like, that have been proven to work for me. And with that, I feel that the backpacking food choices that I use, even though they are still processed, freeze-dried foods, they're from a couple online vendors that I find are a little bit better quality than those that you find along the trail. Sometimes they're the same brands. I mix them up. There are also several places along the trail where the only option to resupply are at gas stations or very, very small markets. And most oftentimes then you're choosing from north sides, instant mashed potatoes, ramen, and that's pretty much it. So if you have special dietary restrictions, maybe if you take medications regularly, or maybe you just want to send resupply boxes to the locations that don't have good resupply stores, like a grocery store, then maybe you want to do partial boxes. There are a number of different ways to plan out your resupplies. First, you have to know how many miles per day you're going to be traveling. Then once you know that, you will have the number of days of food you need between resupplies. For me, what I did was I used a website called postpolar.com, and he has a tool on his website where you can calculate out what your miles per hour would be based on the elevation change. And then you can also use an adjustment to gauge whether you want to go slower or faster. So that spits out the distances between the towns for you based on what he recommends your miles per hour are going to be in between certain resupplies. Then you also want to look at the Far Out app. That's what I use. AWOL is also another service that you can use. It's basically a PDF format that you have on your phone, and it's in an app. Both of those apps, it will identify the locations of resupply points along the trail and identify the quality of them as well, what typical types of food are available. And it will give you you'll have to do some calculation, but it'll give you the distances between the towns, and then you can figure out on your own what you think you'll average for mileage per day, and that'll give you the number of days of food that you need. Then I took an extra step and built out a very rough itinerary, sort of just a guideline, because I wanted to make sure that I would have enough days to complete the trail if I went a fairly slow speed. And so all of my resupply points are based off that. And I plugged in dates for when I estimated I would be at each of the towns based on the number of days of food. And then you also have to calculate and take into consideration your Neros and zeros as well. There's no way you can get that set straight. You kind of just have to guess. They sort of just become a cushion, so to speak. And now you have your locations and your ETAs for when you're going to arrive at these locations. Your ETAs at each of these locations don't have to be precise. Most non-post office places will hold your packages for the season. If they won't, it's usually stated in one of the 2 guides that I mentioned. Post offices are a little bit trickier. I believe that they will only hold a general delivery box for 3 weeks. But that's a big range. You know, you should be able to be arriving there within that time frame. So I hope that answers the questions. One other suggestion I want to throw out there is, if you are thinking of doing resupply boxes, I would try to avoid sending them to post offices, because all of them are closed on Sundays and most have very limited hours on Saturdays. So if you land in a town on a Saturday after the post office closes, you are going to be stuck there until Monday, whatever hour the post office opens, to get your resupply box. I like to send them to businesses when I can, and then lodging locations when they accept packages, whether you're a guest there or not. So as you can tell, it's a bit of a complicated process. Definitely requires some planning. If you're not hiking the trail until next year, it's a much more doable process. You can work on the resupply part a little bit at a time. But really, it does deter a lot of people. A lot of people don't care to do the planning. I personally love to plan. And a lot of people find the whole post office thing and, you know, where you're going to send your box to be a pain in the butt. And so they just resupply on the trail. It's really, when it comes down to it, it's just hike your own hike the way you want to. Video can show this, but I'm telling you, the forest is about to run its green. It's gonna happen real soon. Today has been a relatively easy day. More down than up. The ups have not been terribly steep, so I've been cruising along pretty good. Got a nice break at lunchtime and dried out my tent. My sleeping bag is a little wet, but before I got out of the tent this morning, it felt like it was already starting to dry out, so I didn't bother with it. I think I'll be getting to camp early enough tonight that I can dry it out before bedtime anyways. So speaking of camp tonight, at lunchtime I was 10 miles from Hot Springs, and I had already gone 10 miles. So that would have been a 20-mile day. I have to say, I thought about it. I'm thinking about it, but I think it's going to get me in really late. And if I were doing it up against a 0, I probably wouldn't hesitate doing a 20 now. I feel really good today. The terrain has been cooperating. I've had no aches or pains except a little bit of issues I have with my toes, and that comes and goes. But I'm not going in for a 0. I could. I kind of had it set up that I would do a 0 there, but I want to get back on to the schedule of 1 0 a week coming from Gravity's house. It hasn't been a week yet. So I think I'm going to skip the 0 and just mirror with a short distance into town tomorrow, and then I'll probably zero at the next location. And right now I don't know what that is. So I have the option of getting a tent site that's only big enough for one tent near a water source, 5.8 miles from lunch, or going roughly 7.5 miles and camping near a shelter. So that would be 3 or 5 miles into Hot Springs tomorrow. And the one-person tent site I will come to first. Obviously, it's further away. So I'm going to use the shelter camping area as a backup in case someone happens to be in that one-person spot, or it's really just not conducive to camping, because some people say comments on Far Out, and when you actually see the site, it's like, nope, this isn't going to work. So that way, I'll be staying true to myself as far as keeping my mileage reasonable, and also pushing it a little bit today because I do feel good and because the terrain is cooperating, but not just going all out because of that. So that's the plan. We'll see how the next 3 hours or so unfold from here. All right. Oh, and the bubble coming out of Standing Bear has pretty much burst. So we're all kind of spread out again. I have seen about 6 through hikers today. They were at the shelter, the first shelter I came to on the other side of Max Patch Mountain. Since then, I have seen no other through hikers, just a number of day hikers, section hikers and day hikers. So that big mountain out there on the horizon is Bluff Mountain. I had lunch there today and left at about 1:15. It's now 3:30, quarter 4 actually. And we're getting close to our stealth campsite for the night. Hello. So today was a good day. Did 15.79 miles, and I am camped at a stealth spot. There's a couple other spots here for some other people, but I'm not really expecting that anyone is going to decide to camp here because the shelter is only 1.5 miles away, and then town is 4.5 from here, 3 miles from the shelter. Most people earlier today were pushing into town. Now I feel like we're getting a few stragglers going into the shelter. It's just before 6 o'clock. So my whole point was to camp here so I didn't have to be on top of people and have a little alone time. This morning was quite eventful with the thunderstorm we had at 4 o'clock. And it lasted for quite a while, actually. I finally got out of camp at 7. I had to wait to even start my stove because the lightning was just throwing bolts everywhere. It was a pretty day. It wasn't very hard. There's a lot of downhill. My feet held up pretty good after lunch, and they got a little break. They did well in the afternoon. My lower back is a little stiff now, but that's pretty normal. I think I'm just gonna have to accept that. And I just finished up doing a series of massage ball work on my different lower extremity parts. So yeah, happy with where I am. I'm still quite ahead of schedule for the plan that I set up for myself, and I still feel pretty good about just going in tomorrow, to do a Nero and then heading back out on the trail the following day. It'll be between 2 and 3/4 days to the next resupply, and my box is going directly to a hostel, so I'll probably make reservations there and end up doing a 0 there. Nothing else really exciting's been going on. It's been super windy. That's supposed to die down at 8 o'clock. And I'm gonna cook up some dinner right now, and hopefully I get a great night's sleep. And the plan is to get up early tomorrow morning, the usual time, 4:30 on the trail by 6, and be in town in time for the breakfast joints to open. Can't check in until 3, but I can work on the vlogs and editing and hopefully get some laundry done. And then by the time I get my room, I can just relax. So that's the plan. The only other thing I'll point out is my fingers are getting super, super dry. I'm surprised. Usually it didn't happen out here last summer, but it's very common for me to get this when I'm in the Sierra. It's gotta be from the sanitizer. All right, I'm just rambling now, so I'm gonna let you go. Have a good night, everybody.